Hi, and welcome to the Hope Streams podcast with your host, Stephen and Crystal Wade. We're glad that you're tuning in today. This is our first attempt, right, at doing a podcast, and we're excited for you to join us. And our goal in having these podcasts is to have a conversation, hopefully with a point.
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully with a point. Hopefully some type of truth, a nugget or something that you can take and apply to your life. Our conversations are going to be God-focused, life-focused, not church or religious-focused. These are conversations that we want to have that you would have outside of the bricks and mortars of your local church. And anyways, we're just so thankful that you are here listening in, and hopefully you'll stay tuned. And let me introduce to you my lovely bride. She's across the table from me in this little podcast studio we have set up. How are you today?
Great.
I'm so glad that you're here.
I'm glad you're here too.
Yeah, this is great. So
we've overcome a lot to be here, and one of those things was words.
Yeah.
Podcasts and blogs don't set well with me as a word, so that we're here is a miracle.
It is. The other miracle is that I'm actually speaking, because sometimes words, I butcher them. And I am terrible with the English language sometimes, and writing it and speaking it.
But you're the only one I know that can take grammar and make something funny out of it.
Oh, I did. I did a devotional speech or something one time talking about sin, and how sin is really nouns. Nouns are a good way to identify, sin in our lives, people, places, and things. Growing up in the Bible Belt, sin was missing the mark. As an archer shooting an arrow and he misses the target, it's not living up to God's standards. But I think it was Dan Allinger, said that sin is really us looking for life apart from God, or trying to fulfill the needs that we have in our life apart from God. And in comes those nouns: people, places, and things.
Exactly.
I'm just saying.
It's English.
English, man. English is sinful, is what I'm trying to tell you right here. Growing up, they didn't have English as a second language. It's a first language for me, but I've butchered it so much. Growing up, I think I needed to have that English as a second language class just to help me get it through. So I appreciate your patience and your prayers towards my speaking and writing abilities. But we are glad you're here. We was talking. What'd you ask me a minute ago about topics and lists? How many do you have?
Oh, about 50.
About 50.
It's growing by the minute.
You want to know how many I have?
How many do you have?
I had 3, but I forgot the point of the first one, so I'm down to 2.
That's why you need the English, to write it right down.
Yeah,
on your paper.
Write it down. No, I'm more of a wing it kind of a guy.
Because you're a pilot.
Well, yeah, maybe in another life I'd be more of one. But yeah, I like airplanes and all things that fly. A lot of analogies may come from that.
So, jumping right in there.
Okay.
You're talking about flying. We were flying down the road that day after I got off of work, and you noticed something.
I was not speeding, just to be clear. Yeah, so when we were newlyweds, this has been many years ago, and we were newlyweds, and for whatever reason, I picked you up from work that evening, and you got in the car, and I could tell you were upset. And, of course, we're still learning that each other has their way, and learning how to be a couple and be married and be husband and wife and all that, which is a steep learning curve that I'm still trying to work out. But you're very gracious to me. But anyways, in that day you weren't, but we're not talking about that.
Just take it all away.
Take it all. Yeah. Just take it all.
Give in, take away.
Yeah, I try. But you love me anyways.
Yes.
No, you got in the car and you were upset. And I was like, I remember saying, honey, what's wrong? And your response was, nothing. I was like, oh, kind of sure seemed like something. So I asked again, and you're like, nothing, I don't want to talk about it. So I was like, And I asked the third time.
Are you sure?
It was 3 times.
Okay, all right.
And maybe it was 2. I don't remember.
It seemed like it was short of 3, but anyways.
Okay. I think that's right. I think it was twice. And you're like, nothing. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Nothing's wrong. And it wasn't 60 seconds later, you were on the phone. Yeah, keep your hand away from that microphone. You were on the phone, and you like called your mom. You're like, Mom, you wouldn't believe what happened today. Blah blah blah. And I'm over there going, what in the world? I just didn't. I just ask that. Is this some? That was before the whole language book of men speak one language, women speak the other language.
Right.
Came out, and I remember us having that conversation later because I don't know if I was mad, but I was perplexed, and I remember that's what it was. I remember asking you, how many times do I have to ask? And you're like, well, maybe 3 times. I was like, I asked twice. And you're like, well, maybe 3 times. So I've taken that and we've implemented that.
Yes.
And it was like, how many, I'm asking, this is my 3rd time I'm asking. But the other big takeaway from that was I explained to you that I asked and I was sincere and I wanted to know. And the takeaway was that I started asking you if something's wrong and you would say nothing. And I would ask you, is this a nothing or a nothing something?
Right.
And then from that, we also learned, okay, you may be upset about something you're processing internally, and it's nothing for me to get involved with. And you would give me the response, it's a nothing. And then other times, I asked, if is it a nothing something? You're like, yeah, it's something. And that was my clue or my indicator to dive in there a little further and try to figure out how I can help and how I can listen to what's going on.
Yes, that was brilliant on your part.
Yeah.
It was a breakthrough moment right there.
Well, the other thing is the why it was a breakthrough moment is because you embraced it as much as I embraced it.
Right.
And that's what made it work.
Well, and I didn't really feel at the time that you cared to hear what was bothering me. Thank God, I can't even remember what it was now. It was just a great turn of events in our communication, but I didn't feel like you had cared that much to hear. And so those extra times let me know. And then you communicated to me that the first time you really did care, which is the difference between male and female, because the female can be more complex. Is it this? Is it that? All these different things. The male can be more simple and direct, at least in a lot of cases.
Sometimes we're complicated too.
I know. And so that's why I said in a lot of cases.
Mm.
Usually for men, it's more simple and direct, usually. And so I understood then that you really did care on the first time, and then you were delineating that, is it really nothing or is it something? And that became our catchphrase. But then you took it to the next level when you're like, is that something you want to talk about now? Because there were sometimes it was something and I didn't want to talk about it right then. And then there's sometimes that something is really going on and you can't even get it into words. And that's really when we need to pray for each other.
Right.
Just pray.
Right. There's other times when I try to tell you and I just butcher the words. But
Oh, yes. And that was another good breakthrough moment right there.
It was?
It was.
When I butchered a word?
No, when you said, listen to what I mean and not what I'm saying.
Right. So, yeah, I remember that. That was also in our New years. Our New Year's. New Year's. This is good advice taking it into the new year. But yeah,
Exactly.
We were still newlyweds, and I was trying to. I don't remember what it was over.
The great thing is we can't remember that, but we do remember what we learned. So that's
because
wonderful.
Love covers over a multitude of sins.
Exactly.
And anyways, back to the point. I was trying to communicate something to you, probably tell you I was sorry for something. I don't remember. And it just wasn't, I could tell by the look on your face and your reaction, you were not taking it the same way I was saying it or how I meant it.
Right.
And I remember looking at you and saying, look, please hear what I mean, not exactly the words that I am saying.
Right.
And that was like the veil was open, right? It was like some light was shining in. You're like, oh, okay, well, I can tell he's sincere in what he's saying.
Right.
It's not like we're from 2 different planets or 2 different countries and speak 2 different languages, but that's what it was like when we were first married.
Well, and I think that everybody is going to have that to a degree because everybody was raised in different families. And so each family does have their way, and some are healthier and some are not as healthy. But whether they're healthy or not, it's still a way and it's still a pattern of relating that you have, that's your perspective, that your spouse does not have because they had it from their family and their way. Mm-hmm. And so in that aspect, you are from two different nations.
Right.
Your family nation.
No, but seriously, like I'm more of a morning person than you are. And sometimes
we never aggravate
we never aggravate each other, shoot, I'm like we'll talk about, hey, you want to go for a walk this morning? Or go for a jog or something. Okay, we don't jog, but let's go for a walk. And you're like, yeah, I can go for a walk this morning. So I'm like the golden retriever holding with the leash in its mouth at the door, ready to go. And it may be an hour or two before you're ready to go on the walk. So instead of a morning walk, it's more of a lunchtime walk. But that's just kind of our way, right? And then there's a way I prefer to do things. There's a way you prefer to do things. There's a way that we were both brought up. But I think the key part of that is to give each other grace and space for us to be able to walk in the ways that we're supposed to be.
Well, and when you get married or even even between friends, so whatever the relationship is.
Yeah. Group dynamic, group being more than two.
Exactly.
Or more than one, two or more.
Are gathered in my name. He's here. Thank you, Lord. Wherever that you're in those relationships and they're meaningful in your life, there's going to be things that just don't set well. And just to look a little deeper and not try, by the grace of God, not to go off on each other and tear each other down, but to try to look and see where that other person is coming from. And if there's something that's just continual friction, to try to talk about it, or to realize, hey, he is more of a morning person. And I actually, for a while, tried to get up and be more available in the mornings, and then it has changed because it's just where it is for me right now. And then you've had a lot more grace in realizing that's where she's coming from, and it's not trying to aggravate me because she's not ready when I am. So learning that you're not trying to aggravate each other, and seeing that that's just the way the other person is, and then trying to come to a happy medium.
Right. The other thing that I think is key is to also realize there's different times and seasons.
Yes.
Throughout your life. I mean, newlywed is one season. Having your first child, that's another season. Second child, third child, however many children. It's a different dynamic.
Right.
Every year. Not only are you growing older and maturing, hopefully in different areas of life and relating, but there's just different times. I know we used to our conversations and communications. You brought out the point that some of the different messages that are spoken in Christendom about you have to schedule these times to talk, and you have to do this in order to have a healthy relationship in your marriage, and you have to communicate here and communicate there. And while a lot of those are good ideas, but how'd you take those?
I did not take them well, and with all due respect, and with great respect for so many Christian ministries that are helping so many people, when it's spoken, hey, you need to have this much time per week, or schedule this or schedule that with your spouse to have a good marriage. And if you don't have good communication, you're not going to have a good marriage. It really frustrated me because our lifestyle could not fit into that methodology. And I would just like to stop here, Stephen, there is some more nuggets that we could go into on the seasons, and the communication is so key, and just some very simple grace-filled communication keys can really be a game changer for relationships, especially as our marriages are pretty much under siege in this time in history, especially because they are representations of God the Father and Christ and his church. And God wants you to have a great marriage and a great family. And you are going through different seasons in your life. And let's just pause it there.
Hey, that'll conclude our podcast for today. Please join us next time, and just thank you for tuning, and God bless, and may his grace and face shine upon you.